So, if you're walking away from this call, I want you to walk away with the importance of having a signature talk or a signature message that is clear and you're confident in. The importance of understanding where your people gather, which might not be the same person that gathers the people. So, don't get me
Hmm.
wrong, you gotta get that step done. It also builds confidence. But once you have a talk, don't stop there. That's the beginning. And so, that's when we begin your stage strategy. What does that look like? First is identify who do you want to be talking to? Like who's your ideal audience, which obviously your ideal audience will be your ideal clients or your ideal partners or ideal investors. I run a business for 5 years and I figure out that other people could actually have a value for this. So I ended up selling my business for $1 million within 5 years of starting it. Now they're like, wow, that's a cool story. I want to learn more. So that these were just two examples, but that's how we get started. So that's step number one. Get your audience to pay attention.
Hello, and welcome to the How to Exit podcast, where we introduce you to a world of small to medium business acquisitions and mergers. We interview business owners, industry leaders, authors, mentors, and other influencers with the sole intent to share with you what it looks like to buy or sell a business. Let's get rolling. And now a moment for our sponsors. Sponsored by DuDilio. Looking to buy or sell a business? Assembling the right team is essential for success, and that's where DuDilio comes in. DuDilio is the go-to platform for hiring top M&A service providers, including attorneys, deal advisors, and due diligence experts. With a network of over 250 highly vetted professionals and boutique firms, they connect you with the expert you need for a seamless M&A journey. Whether you're acquiring your first business, growing your portfolio, or preparing for a sale, DuDilio makes building your deal team easy and efficient. And best of all, their matching service is completely free. Visit dudilio.com and assemble your winning team today. I want to highly recommend you get Acquisition Aficionado magazine. Every month, Acquisition Aficionado magazine brings you tactics for business buying and selling you won't find anywhere else. Learn firsthand from industry leaders who share their success stories, featuring in-depth interviews and stories from leading figures in the business acquisition industry. This multi-platform mobile magazine speaks to acquisition entrepreneurs wherever they are in the journey. And I want you to visit acquisitionaficionado.com today. Hello and welcome to the How to Exit podcast. Today I'm here with Dolores Hirschmann, and we are going to talk about all the stuff in the world that comes to the communications and the way that you sell your business through conversation, through speaking, and through other stuff. She is the founder of Masters in Clarity. Looks like she's a acquisition entrepreneur herself and has been through this process quite a bit. So this is going to be a fun conversation. Thank you for being here, Dolores.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. We always start off with the origin story. Can you kind of tell people the story of how you ended up on a show about mergers and acquisitions so that they can get kind of connected? We want people to connect with you and know your story so they feel like they can relate. So can
Yeah,
you help us
awesome.
relate?
So, first of all, if you hear an accent, it's because I have one. I was born and raised in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, but I've been in the US for over 27 years. I ended up marrying the tourist. You're not supposed to marry the tourist, but I married the tourist in Buenos Aires, and we ended up building our family here. We have 4 kids, and first and foremost, I'm a mom, and I'm very proud of that. That is my first business, my first 4 businesses, and four launches I've done. My youngest is in college, so we're empty nesters. But at the heart of this journey that we're going to talk about, Ronald, is I remember, graduated from high school, and I said to my dad, I want to be an actress, and he's like, "Great, go to business school, and then we can talk." And I suffered through business school, but it was the best thing I ever did because at heart, I'm a creative. And as a creative, having a foundation in business has made all the difference because it's helped me kind of create things, monetize them, build things that look and talk like businesses. And sometimes there's this misconception that you have to be a numbers person to be a business person, And actually, no, I mean, having creativity is one of the best tools you can have. And so long story short, I launched myself into the world as a marketer. My graduating research paper was back in 1996. I'm 52. I graduated with a degree in business and marketing, and my graduating thesis was marketing on the internet, relationship marketing. This is back in 1996, where Amazon didn't exist. Social media was not even in the plans. I was one of 30 people connected to the internet in Argentina. And that actually set me up in a path that, lo and behold, like, it stayed with me all along. And I believe that marketing is the number one aspect of a business, that without it nothing else is possible. It's almost like trying to host a party and you never send an invitation. So marketing is the things you do so people know that you exist. And whether you're launching a business, growing a business, scaling a business, or exiting a business, without an outward communication and an outward strategy of letting the world know what you do, what you're up to, what you stand for, and what your goals are, nothing really happens. So
You're speaking my language. That's what my master's degree is in, and I we're the same age, or I might be a few weeks older. I'm about to turn 53 in a few weeks here, so uh, I appreciate that a lot. And if anybody that I know that's spent a lot of time in marketing, um, I'm kind of put off by what a lot of businesses and marketing agencies sell as marketing, and mainly just because a lot of the stuff that's sold in my marketing agencies doesn't get great results. It's just it's great marketing for maybe a Coca-Cola. It's branding. Maybe it's great for Coca-Cola or someplace like that. When we're talking these small to medium businesses, you know, I'm a big believer in whatever you do, you need to track the ROAS, or you call it return on advertising spend, or even the return on investment, or for this stuff. I do X and Y happens. And so much of this, the agency's like, well, you're just building a brand. And I was like, that's great if you're Coca-Cola, right? If you got $50 million to throw at launching a new product, that's one thing. But for these small guys and stuff like that, they need and to focus on activities and energies that, you know, create a result. And so that's one of my touch points. Or I get a little frustrated when I see certain, market agencies and, small businesses who are spending great money, tens of thousands of dollars a month. And when I ask them, I say, cool, how's that working for you? What's your return on investment? And they're like, I don't know. It's just something you're supposed to do. How do you feel about what the industry terms as marketing?
yeah, so throwing spaghetti to the wall is not marketing. Throwing spaghetti to the wall is throwing spaghetti to the wall. I think that what I like to teach, and what I like to talk about is what is marketing, and what is at the heart of marketing, and it's humans attracting other humans for the purpose of a common goal, or a common interest, or a common need. And so when you unpack that, it can look like Facebook ads or Instagram ads, absolutely.
Right.
But are we connecting with the right people for the right purpose in the right way? Like, just throwing an ad out there is not going to get you clients. I've done it. I've spent that money. I did all the things that those agencies tell you. Oh yeah, you just put 10 grand and you'll be fine. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. And so I think that at the heart of all of this, Ronald, is clarity on what are we saying and how we are connecting. And that's really where Masters in Clarity comes to play. Is we work in helping our clients master their clarity of messaging, clarity of audience, clarity of purpose, clarity of strategy, so that they can achieve their outcome, whatever that might be. And in the place of acquisition, whether you are the buyer or the seller, clarity on the communications and the messaging, whether it's a one-on-one, or you're out in a podcast and an interview like we're doing now, or you're out on a stage, it is important for you to clearly communicate what you're looking to accomplish. Because what is the easiest way to get what you want? Ask for it. So what is the easiest way to ask for the sale? Ask for it, but you have to ask it the right way.
I never thought about using communication platforms. Podcast, of course, I'm here every day. But and I've actually told a couple of people who I know that are thinking about selling their business that they would do really well by doing the rounds, bringing somebody on and help them do 1 or 2 shows a week for the next 12 months, just to because they had a product or a service that they built, they want to sell, and it's just not well known yet. And one of the fastest ways to drive up that price of stuff is to have something everybody kind of knows what it is, right? You can have, you could create the greatest widget in the world, and if and you might be doing $1 million a year, which is a decent little business, but if nobody in that industry knows, right, who you are and what you want, then all your strategic acquirers are blind too. So how do you get that in front of them and let them know, hey, this is the space of the market we've carved out, and draw some interest to it. And I think doing the rounds on the podcast is a great way. Getting on stages and trade shows and that type of stuff would be brilliant too. So how do you work with these clients, or how do you suggest they go about doing something like that?
Yeah. So I've been doing this work for over 10 years. I'm a speaker coach. I used to run of the largest I used to run one of the largest TEDx events here in the East Coast. And I ended actually building a business around placing people on stages. I partnered with someone. We ended up selling this business to someone called Grant Cardone. I don't know if you know that name.
Yeah.
Um, and it was an amazing experience. I ran that for 4 years. But so how does that happen? First of all, I teach them a framework I've been teaching for a long time that I can run through with you about how to structure the talk. So the first step is like, how are you going to say what you want to say? So we can go through that. And then once we have that, where does this message belong? Which podcast, which stages, which spaces do you need to bring this message to? And then we talk about what's called a state strategy, which really what it means is like, how do I create the path to the right rooms for talking to the right people? So I can do you want to I can share my 7 step to write your talk if you want me to.
Absolutely. I'm a big favor of putting your stake in the ground too. So this is a great way for somebody to go out and say, tell the world, this is my market. This is what I'm up
Exactly.
to. This is so. Yeah, give us your steps.
Yeah. So this is actually I call it my paint by number process of writing a talk, because when you break it down in the way I'm going to share in just a second, it really brings down the confusion on how to organize my thoughts. So these are 7 steps, and I'll run them in order. First, step number 1 is make your audience care. Nobody cares about who you are or what you have to say until you make them care. So, step number 1 is understanding that the first 30 seconds on stage are the most important ones. So, don't start by saying, "Hey, my name is Dolores, so good to see you." Think all that is
Hmm.
noise. And all that actually what that does when we do that on stage, it actually turns the brain off from our audience, and they discount you. Like they're like, oh, she's not talking to me. So the first 30 seconds are all about getting your audience to connect with you. So how do we do that? We can do it in 2 ways, or we can mix them up, but well, there's many ways to do it, but I teach 2 main ways. One is the restaurant question, asking something simple as, how many of you are looking to sell their business in 5 years? Simple. And so just by doing that, the audience kind of will have a hint of what you're talking about. And if they're in business and they're curious about exiting, they're going to listen. That's one way to do it. Another way to do the first 30 seconds is to tell a story. But if you tell a story, tell it in present tense and with minimum context. So things like, I got $1 million. To start like that. It's like, whoa, what did you do? So you can get on stage and say, I got $1 million. I ran a business for 5 years, and I figured out that other people could actually have a value for this. So I ended up selling my business for $1 million within 5 years of starting it. Now they're like, wow, that's a cool story. I want to learn more. So that these were just 2 examples, but that's how we get started. So that's step number 1. Get your audience to pay attention. Step number 2, tell them what you're going to tell them. So here's where you succinctly present your idea, like really what is it that you're going to be talking about. And so things like, I believe that if you are clear on your message, or if you're clear on what you want, you can actually create the outcome that you are looking for, or something like that. I like I believe statements, or something like in my experience, or some kind of way of introducing the topic, but from the perspective of your authority. So step number one, make your audience care. Step number two, present your idea, present your topic. Now, step number three, and by the way, these first three steps can be accomplished in minutes. It doesn't have to take much time, but they're very important steps to warm up your audience to receive your message. So, step number three is about introducing yourself. I remember I had a client who said, "Well, I don't really like talking about myself." I said, "That's fine, but how will your audience trust you if they don't know enough about you?" So I don't want you to speak about yourself at the beginning, because they don't care who you are, because you didn't give them a reason to care. But in step number three, they're now curious enough to know more from you, to learn from you. Now is when you tell them who you are. So you want to introduce yourself, but don't line up your resume. Here's where you story tell your story. So how do we do that? I could say something like, I was about 38 years old when I realized that my background as a marketer was not going to be what I wanted to do in the future. And I went back to school and became a coach. So I just told you that I'm a leadership coach without telling you that I'm a leadership coach. I was just telling you my story. And then it was not until I was into my business, helping people get their messages out there, that I ended up in a partnership with my partner, and we built up $20 million business that we exited in 4 years, and it became a company called 10x Stages. Like, I'm not telling you what I'm telling you, but I'm telling you that through the story. So that's what you do. You weave your background, your authority, your credibility in a way that is engaging, entertaining, not like, oh, look at me, I'm so great, but it is what you did, and it is what makes you be in this podcast in this cold morning. So you have to share it. So that's one, two, three. So far, so good. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So if you accomplish these first three steps well, now the audience is like at the edge of the seat. They want more. They want to learn more. So then you go to what I call step number four, which is the teaching part, the adding value part. I call it the meat and potatoes, because really this is like the main course. If you have 20 minutes on stage, the first 5 minutes are steps one, two, three. Step number four will be most of your time on stage. So you might actually spend 10 to 12 minutes on your step number four. This is when you teach. So right now I'm teaching you my framework. This will be my meat and potatoes. This is like my gift to you, right? My framework. So this is when you teach whatever you are an expert on. In my case, I can teach about speaking, or I can teach about exiting, so on and so forth. And you want to use a couple of elements to teach your core content. You want to use story or case studies. You want to use research. Like, one of the things that I always say is like, 70% of small business owners close their business and they don't sell it. Why? Because they don't know how to structure the company to sell. That's data that you can Google it, or you can chat GPT. Like, there's data around the topic that you're teaching. So you want to bring that data, third party data, because it validates your work. And you also want, so you want a case study or a story, you want some data or research, and you want a lesson. And so if I were to be talking about, 70% of businesses close up, they never sell. I let me tell you about my two businesses. When I was in my 30s, I launched a school, and I launched a clothing company that I closed because I didn't know I could exit them. And this is what I learned, and now I know blah blah blah, and then I go teach. So bringing those three elements, storytelling, research, and teaching, into your core content can really help bring your knowledge forward. So right now we go all the way from step number 1 to 4. Now what happens? So you got your audience, nodding and recognizing that you're adding a lot of value, that is interesting what you're teaching. Maybe they have had an aha or a realization. Oh my God, I didn't know that. Like, this is so cool. Now it's time to start closing your speech. How do we do that? Step number 5 is to remind your audience of what you're talking about. So in step number 5, what I would do, like right now, I would say, well, remember that it's all part of, like, communication is at the heart of moving your agenda forward. When you master the art of powerful communication, you can get investors, you can get buyers, you can get clients, you can get partners, you can get anything you want, really, because you know how to ask for it. So that would be like step number 5, is remind them what you're talking about. Now, step number 6, when you are on stage delivering your presentation, the audience only has one choice. Well, they can tune you off. That's choice number 2. But let's say that they're tuned in. Like, their choice, their brain can only be listening and learning from you. Their brain is not really imagining something different because they're attentive to you. So step number 6 is when you create a moment from stage where you invite your audience to turn on their imagination, to imagine a new reality. So I can say something like, imagine what's possible if you have a powerful, high converting signature talk. Imagine who you can attract. Imagine the clients you can get. Imagine. Like, you really create a space for them to imagine how this content that you taught can transform their lives and their work. And then last but not least, probably as important as the first 30 seconds, the last step is all about call to action. I always say that speaking is like a first date. What is the desired outcome of a good first date? What is it?
Second date.
A
A
second
second
date.
date. Right.
And so, how do we get a second date from a group of people that are watching us from stage? Well, you get their contact information. You invite them to your community. You bring them into a lead magnet. There's many strategies to do this, but basically, the opportunity is that once you are on stage, you want this to be a powerful first date for them to want more of you. So that's when you invite them to continue a journey with you.
So let's
I'm
see
gonna
if
take
I
some
can
water.
recap it. You're gonna help. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
I'm gonna try to recap it. You're gonna help me fill in the gap. So step 1 in our marketing phrases, I would call it a hook. It's something to capture their attention. It's something, whether it's a thought-provoking question. I love that you have experience in TEDx. I actually got invited once and I turned it down. It was one of my mistakes. I should have taken it. I knew the local person, but so you capture their attention with some thought-provoking either statement or question, right? And then there was a story element. What was the second step? I think it was like you're kind of leading in with a little bit of story before you third step tell them who you are indirectly.
Yeah. So step number 1, you hook them. You can use a resonant question. You can use some story. And then step number 2 is all about telling them what you're going to tell them.
tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them about who you are, why they should, why you give yourself a little bit of authority, right?
Yeah.
And then you go step. That was 3. 4 was the teaching, right? You're actually teaching with some facts and making sure you include both case studies and facts in a story format. And then 5 was let's see if I can remember this. 5. I'm trying to narrow this down here. 5 was so you did the last part. The vision part was the end. So that was the last step.
So step number 5 is you're closing your content delivery, your core content delivery. So step number 5 is like kind of back to the beginning. It's like, remember, this is what we're talking about. So you
Okay.
remind them of the main topic.
So it's kind of like writing a good article. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them, right? So
Exactly.
that, yeah. So you tell them what you told them, and then you make them live you envision it, right? So I often say that there's 2 core skills in the world, right? And communication comes in play on both of them. So don't just because I don't say communication in either one of these, you can't do either one without great communication skills. Skill number one is building deep rapport with other human beings. If you can get to the stage where you can listen to where people feel heard,
Yep.
acknowledge people for where they're at in the world, and build true human bond with individuals, you'll get so much further than any other realm. And the second one, I honestly believe, so that's step one, is building deep rapport with other humans. And it's all done through communications. And the
Hmm.
second one is definitely what I call getting people enrolled in your vision, being able to share your vision, your story, what you're up to in such a way that people want to drop what they're doing and be involved with and help you do what you help you succeed. And
Hmm.
there's case study after case study after case study of where maybe the business idea wasn't the greatest or maybe the execution wasn't the greatest, but people raised billions of dollars. Like WeWork is the exact example. It wasn't the greatest execution. Maybe the idea was even flawed a little bit, but the guy, it was so, he just had a way of karma, or not karma, what's the charisma. He attracted people with money. People liked him, wanted to do something with him. He told a story and shared a vision they bought in on, and they threw money at the guy. And I honestly believe that you can do that really well from the stage, or from even the stage might not necessarily have to be a stage. Maybe it's a boardroom in front of 15 investors, or
Yeah.
maybe it's a pitch in front of the what they call it. There's one called the Krotsu Forum or something like that. Where I'm butchering the name, but you're in the room in front of 15 or 20 angel investors, right? It's still you follow the same framework you gave, and it's that last step. I don't want people to overstand that or overstep it. If you can get people to really really truly imagine, and it's not a simple thing to do. Most of us, there's a reason why in real estate people stage houses. It's because the average person can't walk into a room and see the
Or the
possibility.
possibility. Yep.
You have to paint that possibility. So when I was in the real estate space, like we had to stage a lot of houses, especially any house that had a small room, because people walk and go, "What do I do with this room?" And they don't realize a bed and a lampshade and everything, a nightstand and everything would fit until they see one in there. But they walk into a 10 foot by 10 foot room and they're thinking, "No, this is no way," or 12 foot, something small, and they're thinking, "There's no way. This must be just an office or a baby's room." And the same thing when you stand up there and tell your whole story. I think that the critical part is you're in there. You have to have the call to action. You have to have the education part. People love to learn. They hate to be sold, but they love to learn. So have the
Hmm.
education part. But if you can't if they can't see themselves capable in the vision that you painted, they're just not going to do it. And that's one of the realizations a lot of people have is they just don't see themselves capable of doing something.
Exactly. So you see how this
So
can be a paint by number process.
it is. It definitely is. Makes me look at some of the stuff I've done. It's like I gotta go back and redo mine. So we've got the framework now of I want to tell the world about my business. I want to carve off a space, and here's how to do it. Here's my 20 to 30 minute. You can probably get this done easily in 20 to 30 minute. Anybody gives me an opportunity for 20 to 30 minutes and be in front of them. Here's my power punched outline of what I should do. How do we pick the right spaces for that? How do you go about identifying where that story should be told?
Yeah, and that's really where the rubber meets the road. Because having a talk is great and is an important step. Like, don't get me
Mm-hmm.
wrong, you gotta get that step done. It also builds confidence. But once you have a talk, don't stop there. That's the beginning. And so that's when we begin your stage strategy. What does that look like? First is identify who do you want to be talking to? Like who's your ideal audience, which obviously your ideal audience will be your ideal clients or your ideal partners or ideal investors. And then you have to ask yourself, where do they gather? So I remember talking to a yoga kind of health coach, and she said, well, they gather in health conferences. Well, and I remember talking to her and I said, "Do they?" Because if you're a yoga health coach and you go to a yoga health conference, you're going to talk to other yoga health coaches, which are not your ideal clients because they're all like you. You want to go to the I am very stressed conference because those are your clients. So first is like get really clear of who is the people that need to listen to you and where do they gather. So if you're a buyer and you're looking to buy companies, then go into the association of small business owners in their 60s, because you're like, you don't go to the startup group because there's not companies to buy in the startup group. They haven't really started, and there are many of them will probably be very young. They're not ready. But going to the 10, 15, 20-year-old businesses of, mastermind of 50 something year olds or 60 or 70 who might be thinking of like, I want to retire, or I want to, whatever, I need to plan out. So really get clear on who that audience is and where do they gather. Once we're clear on that and what that looks like, because as you just said, it can look like a LinkedIn interview. It can look like a lunch and learn at a corporation. It can look like someone's living room, someone's party. Like, a stage is a place where people gather. It doesn't have to look like an auditorium. It doesn't have to have a curtain or a raised platform. It doesn't. And so be creative and open your mind to what are all the places that we could call a stage and that you can actually come and communicate. And so the next question you're going to ask yourself is like, okay, so who controls those rooms? Because people make the mistake of, okay, I'm going to go ask for opportunities to speak, and they go to their ideal clients. Their ideal clients are the audience. They're not the ones that control the stage. So now we need to create a pitch for you to be talking to the people that control the stage, that will give you, open the door to their audiences. And so that's a whole other ball game. And so now we need to understand, okay, who are those people? Where do I find them? LinkedIn is a great place to find them. Where do I find them? What do I say? And so that is when we get into what I call the reach out strategy or the pitch strategy, where you create your speaker assets, your speaker one sheet. Every talk needs a title, it needs a description, it needs clear takeaways, because you will need that information to present it to the meeting planner and say, hey, I talk about powerful communication. My specialty is talking to business owners to use powerful communication, and these are the two or three things that they're gonna walk away from listening to me.
Awesome, awesome. Now, are you familiar with the topic, which is out of context or out of what am I looking for? I picked it up through Dan Kennedy. I don't know where he learned it. There's a thing about being out of category marketing. For instance, a good example would be he gives the example of a high-end jewelry producer, like a custom jewelry designer, going to he's real big into race horses and racing horses in general. But there's auctions where these quarter horses are sold off, and they're usually $250,000 to $2 or $3 million, right? And they always have a trade show room in the back where there's usually saddles and stuff like that. But usually, he said the people that do really well in there is typically a custom jewelry designer. And there's one person that shows up to these horse trade shows that are, they make custom beds and stuff, and the beds are 10 grand or more. And the reason they do so well is the husband buys a quarter horse, and as they're walking through, the wife's like, well, you buy a quarter horse, I'm gonna get myself some nice jewelry, right? But the the beauty of that is what you said. It's where the customer is. The customer happens to be there, and the reason it works so well is that that vendor is so out of context for what everything else is there. They stand out,
You are the
right?
unicorn in the room. You always
Mhm.
want to be the unicorn in the room. As a woman, I've been in situations where I was the only woman in a boardroom. Or I'm from Argentina. I was the only immigrant woman in a boardroom. And that was not my disadvantage. That was my advantage. Like, you want to be different at all costs. Please be different and stand out being different. Absolutely. Like, you want
Yeah.
to be the one of a kind in a room with a one of a kind message.
So that's what I was thinking, and instead of what you were telling, that's what drew me to what you were saying is like, what if we could pick a place where your target customer, your persona, who you need to talk to, they're in the room. There's a bunch of them in the room, but they may be there for another reason, and that it's just lightly related enough that when you get up or you're in front of them, they're like, I didn't even come here for this, but this is what I needed, and there's not five other
Yeah, that's
people.
what that's why, yeah. Like, a health coach in a female executive conference talking about, I don't know, HR things or anything like that, you will be the only one talking about it and everybody's going to listen. I remember one of my first speaking engagements, I was invited to speak at a conference called Seattle Interactive, all about technology, software, coders. And my talk at the time, I was promoting my coaching business, not so much my business strategy business. And my talk was all about personal leadership. They were like, we've never had a coach, but let's try it. It was standing room only because all of the sessions were about technology and the tactical, industry type conversations, but everybody can always use some knowledge around personal leadership.
I really get this. I really get that you can go out there, you can find rooms and audiences and stuff to get in front of, to tell your story with, and then it's going to move the game forward. Let's tie this back to mergers and acquisitions, either buying a company or even selling your company. Where do you see a person who's trying? Let's just start off. If you're trying to buy a company in a particular industry, should you go to the industry trade show associations and talk about something like that, or where would you have them start?
Yeah, so if you're a buyer, yeah, you go to the source. Where do these mature businesses? Careful, because you might
Yeah,
be in the right room at the wrong time.
right.
Um, so where could I find mature businesses of the type that you want? The other way, if you're a buyer, you also want to think of who is talking to my ideal acquisition. So you might actually be speaking to in a conference of CPA firms that serve the manufacturing space, for example. I don't know, I'm making it up. Or engineers that the Association of Engineers who are working with aerospace and manufacturing businesses. And you say, we're looking for partners to acquire XYZ. And these engineers, which are vendors to your ideal acquisition, might be a door in. You always have to think about in the world of AI and digital marketing, we're still humans having human experiences, and so you always have to think of your strategy as a network of tentacles, and who is through which branch, through which relationship can I come into this space? And there's always one to find, or more than one.
We led a 100-day challenge where I had the goal was to talk to 100 business sellers over 100 days, knowing that it would be really hard to get there. But we had 50 some odd people start. Some of them did it all online. We assigned accountability coaches and stuff. One of the things that worked the best was those, who knows people who would be nearing that age of selling. Who are their attorneys? Who are their CPAs?
Exactly.
Who is the I was telling people, call your local chamber of commerce
Hmm.
and like find out who's on the membership board, build relationships to them and say, hey, when you're going out doing the membership run this year, doing everybody's renewals, who told you that it's going to be their last year as or who do you think's nearing retirement age? Who do you think would be interested
Yeah.
in retiring and selling? Who told you this is the last year as a member because they're gonna do something else,
Yeah.
right? Uh,
Yeah.
those people are there. It's like in the real estate space when I used to have rentals and stuff, and now I have I own or finance my properties off, so I don't have any rentals anymore. But when I had rentals, I always would find the one lady in the neighborhood that knows everything, and I'd make good friends with her and give her my card.
Yeah.
I'd send her
Exactly.
Christmas cards because she always knew what was going on, and my dad did this. So when I was young, really young, I bought Carlton Sheets program online, and I realized I couldn't buy houses because I wasn't 18 yet, and I couldn't sign a contract. So I convinced my dad to do it. And one of the things he did is we made really good friends, and we get calls all the time. Hey, your neighbor's moving out in the middle of the night. Somebody's late on rent or whatever. But there's the same's true. Is there's somebody out in your space that really just has their finger on the pulse of that space? Make friends with them,
Yeah.
right? If
Exactly.
they've got a
Exactly.
stage, yeah.
Who's your
If they got a
connectors?
stage, go speak on that stage, right?
Yeah.
Um, That's why these podcasts are important. If you're out there, I have people wanting to, hey, can I come on your podcast? I want to buy, industrial manufacturing companies. Have you bought one yet? Like, no, then you probably won't fit on my, well, this isn't the right stage. The
Mhm.
sellers are not listening. There's a few, but the sellers
Yeah.
aren't listening here. Your stage is go out to the industry conversations. Go find somebody who has a podcast in your space, that industry, and
Mhm.
then create a conversation around what does it look like to go through the process? What do they need to be ready for a guy like you, right?
Mhm.
Educate them, teach them, give them something of value, and when they're ready, they'll call you,
Yeah.
right? Because looks like a one-on-one conversation, but when this goes out to thousands of people, I have close to 80,000 followers on Twitter, right? So and then I've got others, other channels and thousands of downloads and stuff like that. So this is and it lives like I get, my first video is 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be episode in the 260s or 270s probably. One of the things people miss a lot is you can make content once and you can use it in all kinds of form. Like this
Mhm.
conversation between you and I, this goes out in the podcast world, goes to 30 some odd channels. It goes to everything from Audible, where they you can download podcast to Amazon Music, to all the standard ones, Apple, Spotify. It goes on all those
Mhm.
channels. Then we convert it to written articles, right?
Mhm.
And then it goes out to the article platforms, and it gets put in our newsletters, right? And we cover it in the newsletters to people to subscribe to those. The same thing goes when they get on the stage. They can
Mhm.
turn that into one piece of content. One 20-minute speech could be your tentacles you're talking about. Could be on 30 different platforms. Could be, if you're really good at it and you're not too nervous, I'd say rent a room somewhere, a stage somewhere, and have somebody record you just giving your spiel and put it online once,
Mhm.
right? So a lot of people got a lot of footage, a lot of leeway. I've got friends that did really well with that TEDx talks, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a market credibility, like that you've
Exactly.
had a TEDx
Exactly.
talk.
It's a great tool. Yeah.
I don't want to overstep the fact you sold a company to Grant Cardone, right? And a lot of people here in the space knows them. And then you stayed on. I guess you had an earnout of some sort, so stayed on for a few years and helped him grow it.
So how it went, it was a little different. So I launched a company with a partner. His name is Pete,
Mm-hmm.
and we grew that from zero. It was a licensing partnership, and so I came in as an advisor for the first 2 years. We built that business, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a business to help people get on stages, called Stage Agency. And then Grant wanted to be part of it. So what ended up happening, it was is like I exited the partnership before Grant came in, and I was like the negotiation was I ended up hired to run the company. So I became the director slash CEO for the first 2 years that it was owned between my partner and Grant. So it was kind of like that's how we structured the deal. And yeah, and so I ran that company for 2 years, and I kind of exited that in 2023. And now it's like a big company, and it's serving a lot of people.
Now, how did he hear about it? Was he one of the clients? Was he, or can you even talk
So
about?
no, so the relationship came from Pete had a relationship with Grant,
Mm-hmm.
and so from before and from other things, and as Pete and I were building this solution, it was part of the conversations that they had, and of all the things that Pete was doing at the time, that's what Grant was very interested in being part of. And so it was a very natural progression of their relationship and our relationship as well. And
Now,
again,
do you guys?
it's one of those things that you start things and you have a vision, and then it takes a life of itself, and you need to be able to adapt and grow and evolve.
I see in my notes that you sent to me that you and your team buy small businesses and preserve their liquid. I can speak
The
legacy.
legacy.
Yeah, that's one thing about being on the mic. You have to like pronounce certain words. Legacy. So, what kind of have you already made acquisitions? Is this something you've already done? Or is this something you've got a buy box for when you're out there hunting? And
So we're doing both. I mean, I've done some what is called partnering in acquisition. So I come in as an advisor with equity stake and help them
Hmm.
scale and then exit. I'm negotiating one of the first deal of 2025 in a couple of weeks. And we focus on professional service businesses because they're the hardest to sell, and then the ones I have experience in.
Now, are you familiar with? I think you're actually, aren't you one of the? Correct me if I'm wrong. We can cut this out if it's not right. Aren't you like doing some coaching in one of the like the mentoring programs inside of this? I thought that's where we found you. Like you were in
Yeah, so I'm one of the coaches at Epic Network with Roland Frazier.
yeah, I thought like I know I was like I know that's where we pulled you from there because I'm part of Epic. I've done Jeremy Harbor's group. I've done Roland Frazier's. I've interviewed both of them, probably both of them a couple times now, and I'm big fans. Carl Allen, great guy. I haven't done his program quite yet. Maybe one of these days I'll just do it as a donation. I'll pay him and do his program to be part of his network. Right. Then one of the things you get from these programs is the network of people that are there. Like
Yeah,
all the stuff I'm working on right now, all the projects I have in there, all of our partners come from one of those programs, one or
yeah,
the other. And,
yeah,
and I bridge the programs all the time. So our networking and our calls and our stuff we do, the community I've built of acquisition entrepreneurs, comes from all the different groups. I don't
yeah,
care where they come from, right? If you're interested in buying a small company and want to, and willing to believe in the blue ocean strategy where a rising tide raises all ships and you're willing to help each other out, then I have a community that I'm building that I'm not a mentor or a coach in. It's more along the lines is like we'll give you access to our speakers, we'll give you access to our guests on the show, and if you want if you want to be coached, you want to be, have a, I hate the phrase guru, but if you want somebody like that, tell me who you are and what you're up to and the way you learn, and I'll help you pick which one it is because there's different
mhm,
ones, right? If you just
mhm.
want access to a ton of material and access to all the knowledge in the world, Roland's probably your thing. I've never seen him hand me so many, access to so many videos and training stuff. There was 260 or 270 of them last time I looked inside of that Epic program, right? Everything, even on like how to be a better podcast host. There's a whole little thing inside of there, right? If you want extreme structure, step by step guide, probably in like what to do next, what to do next, what to do next, probably shouldn't be in this space to start with. You got to be a little bit of a self self learner in this space because things are so unique per deal per deal. But if you need that, I'd say Roland's probably not the right guy, right? It's probably Carl Allen. Carl Allen probably has the more direct. Here's what you do next. Here's what you do next. Or even better, if you got some money down, Walker Daywell has one heck of a. This is the logic next step model. But everybody has their own thing. Are you inside of that? And I'm a big fan of Roland stuff, Epic. Inside of that, are you getting some of your partners and ships and stuff from that program? Is that where you're? They're doing it. They're calling work for equity or contract for equity. They all have a different phrase for it.
So there's the consulting for
Okay.
equity CFE, and yeah, so as any community, like you become partners with everybody that is in there. For example, I just posted an opportunity that is not for
Mm-hmm.
me. It's not something I'm interested in, but I know people are. So we are all kind of supporting each other. Sometimes people find something that is perfect for somebody
Mm-hmm.
else, and so that's a great resource for deals or to work deals together.
I don't know what the cost structure is now. When I did, it was like six. No, I think it was close to 8,000 when I did it, and Jeremy's was six at the time. It's been 2 or 3 years now, so I think they all have different cost structures now. But
Yeah.
hands down, the community that you get involved with from these things are worth the money.
Oh, so much.
The education is beneficial, right? You can get educated. You can go to the library and pick up education, right? There's enough books written on how to buy a business. If you read 3 or 4 of them, you can get the gist of it. But you'll never get the connection, the human connection, the joint venture partners, the people like to bounce
Yeah.
ideas, right? With all my college degrees and all my education I've had in every book I read, I'm still not a forensics accountant. So if I see accounting that looks like, I don't know, something's up here, I reach inside of my community and say, hey, I need somebody to overlook this. It just doesn't feel right,
Yeah.
right? And the community, they probably saved me more money than I've ever, would
Yeah.
imagine because I thought I was in like I think I'm gonna move forward to this, and then I show it to 2 or 3 people, and I'm like, yeah, you better ask this question, and this question, and they
Yeah.
uncover things. It's kind of like an extra due diligence. So, what is your like current buy box? If you're out there right now, and like somebody's got a business for sale or something, what is it you're interested in? Is it all contract for equity, or are you looking to buy something and with a given operator, or kind of tell us what you're looking to do?
So I'm looking to do a couple things. One is consulting for equity. So
Hmm.
businesses that are looking to exit in the next few years, but are not sure how to get there. So I come in as an advisor. There can be a retainer involved. There can be equity share, whatever deal we strike. And then my buy box, even in CFEs, is really professional services. So CPA firms, marketing firms, coaches, consultants, people who have grown businesses. Maybe they are the spokesperson or the face of the business, and they're not sure how to transcend themselves so that the business can live beyond them.
Everybody's getting into this space too. I just seen an email this morning that Dan Kennedy wrote a book on selling businesses now. You see
Oh,
that?
really? Oh, I'll check
Yeah.
that out.
So Dan Kennedy has a co-author, and they just released a book today on like how to sell your business for the best value or something. And so I'll reach. I was one of his students for a little while. I'm going to reach out and see if I can't maybe put him on here too. It's an incredible market space. There's huge potential inside of this, and so many business owners that are needing to sell in the next few years with the whole baby boomer thing that just aren't really looking at it quite yet.
Yeah.
So the more of us that are out there on the stages, the more of us that are out there shining a spotlight on this problem, the more likely we are to, be able to absorb the onslaught of what's going to happen if these guys don't transfer, right?
Hmm.
There's so many things coming down the pipe with AI and technology and everything else, but that run risk factors for the economy and run risk factors. But one of the biggest ones is something like 50 something percent of all businesses are small to medium businesses, and some portion of those, a large portion of our GDP in this nation has owners that's retiring in the next, they're going to either retire out or age out.
Yeah.
They're 60 plus now. So, right, how long are they going to work? 70, 80?
Yeah.
you know, unless we change the lifespan of the average human being, we're going to have a problem. So,
Yeah.
what is the best way for people to find you, work with you, um, you know, hear your story, find your content, that type of stuff?
I would say come to mastersinclarity.com. You'll find all of our information. There's a button on the top right corner of the website that says free. That means you can hop on a call with my team for free and learn all about us. Mastersinclarity.com.
Mastersinclarity.com. I'll make sure to include that in the show notes and stuff. Let's do a few takeaways. If somebody could only remember two or three things from the day, what would you have them walk away with?
Yes. So if you're walking away from this call, I want you to walk away with the importance of having a signature talk or a signature message that is clear and you're confident in. The importance of understanding where your people gather, which might not be the same person that gathers the people. So, what is your ideal audience and who is hosting and where? Who is hosting your ideal audience so that you can meet them there? And third, remind people that we are, even in a digital world with AI, we are in a space of humans relating with humans. So always ask yourself, who can connect me with the people or the groups of people that I'm looking to connect with.
Okay, awesome. And then I guess we'll wrap this up. We'll call this a show. Thank you for your time today, and hang out for a few seconds.
Thank you so much.
This episode of How to Exit is brought to you by Final Ascent, the boutique M&A firm helping lower middle market business owners achieve their ultimate exit. At Final Ascent, they know selling your business is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make, and they've been in your shoes. Their team isn't just made of advisors. They're experienced business owners who have successfully navigated their own exits. Final Ascent specializes in preparing businesses for sale, building value, and connecting with a national network of qualified buyers who will compete for your business. They don't take on a client unless they're confident they can sell your business at the current market maximum value. Whether you're ready to sell now or planning for the future, they'll craft a roadmap tailored to your unique goals so that you can walk away with maximum value and a peace of mind. Start your journey today at Final Ascent. That's www.finalascent.com, because your next chapter starts with a successful exit.